seller, a house flipper, a businesswoman, a go-getter, a big investor, a goal builder that could teach you to get richer like millions, baby. You really about to fill your savings. You about to have multiple streams to pass your children, baby. Let me teach you to get your credit on track in the long run. You'll make it all back at Catalyst and watch it all psychological like on firm, but we ain't all black.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Constance Carter, and this is the Grow Your Money podcast, where we talk about how to grow your money and not blow your money. Because if you blow your money, ain't a damn thing funny, y'all. Listen, today is July 1st, 2026, and today we have a new student loan law in effect. And I just wanted to kind of talk to you about that really quick. I'm not going to be before you very long, but this is not a doom and gloom episode. I want to just kind of gauge where you guys are and get your, just give you some information on how we can overcome it, because it's so important that we start utilizing these tools as wealth building opportunities. Now, with this big, beautiful bill and all the things that have been implemented, they have really been implemented for the rich, the wealthy. We know that. And that's the unfortunate thing, is that our administration and in multiple parts of the government, not just the president, but in multiple parts of the government, our government works for the corporations, the millionaires and the billionaires, and not for the regular people. And so we end up footing the bill for all of these things that they come up with in trying to preserve taxes. But I think there's going to be, I think this is short term. So I will say that once we get a new administration in here, I believe that things are going to change. But how do we navigate what's happening right now? And how do we overcome it? And how can we utilize it? So let's first talk about these damn student loans, because what I'm seeing and what I've been reading is that your payment essentially for a family that makes like $80,000, if the payment was $47, it can now go up to like $900 in some cases. And that's the extreme, right? So about 7.5 million people right now, they have to move, and they got a 90-day notice. They got to move to a new plan. And the old, there's a new plan. There's the IRB, the income repayment program, IRP, and then there's a RAP, which is the new thing. And I kind of want to go over the pros and cons of each one. And just tell you how you can navigate through it if you have a student loan, because the thing about it is most people, so being that Black women are the most educated demographic, and we are the ones that are getting the most student loans, and we have the highest default rates after college, unfortunately. And that was with mechanisms that were helping us. Now we have student loans, and I'm wondering, as I'm looking at all this stuff, I'm like, okay, how is this administration trying to not bankrupt this country? How is this administration not trying to bankrupt the country? Because if you think about this, you got to look at, so now if my payment essentially goes from $47 to $900, how am I not going to default on this payment? So first of all, if you look at the history of student loans in California, or even in education, remember, education used to be free. And Ronald Reagan said in the 1980s, in the early 80s, he said that he didn't believe that that the public should foot the bill for people who wanted higher education. And therefore, the tuition was enacted, and so, well, higher tuition, right? So now tuition has gotten so out of control. I had 2 children who graduated from Hampton University. Unfortunately for me, so for my daughter, I paid her tuition. I think it was about $43,000 a year. I paid that out of pocket. She got out of school with no debt. My son, because I went through a divorce and I had to pay, so the money I had set aside for him, it went through a divorce settlement. And so some of his tuition was paid out of pocket, but a lot of it was with student loans, and me as a mother having to pay, get this, the Parent Plus loan that now has limitations on it. So I think last year Hampton University was like $45,000, and I think there's a $20,000 cap on Parent Plus loans, which also means that these kids have to go in with higher personal debt, and they come out with higher personal debt because their parents can't finance it, help finance for them. So it puts our kids in a worse off situation when they're coming out when they're coming out of college, because now they're coming out of college with these high debt. And think about it. I've had clients that made 150,000. I had a couple one year that made $150,000 and couldn't qualify for a home. She was a principal. She had went back and got her PhD, and her husband was a high school teacher, and they could not qualify for a loan in the Bay Area because they had $250,000 in student loans, and therefore their debt to income ratio was too high. So with this SAVE Act that Biden implemented, it really helped people to reduce their student loan debt, and it also made it viable for people to start building wealth and purchasing properties. So my question is like, okay, how is this helping the economy? How is this helping our country if the default rates go up, if people can't pay their bills, if people have to decide on whether they're going to pay their light bill or their student loan bill? How is this making America great again? What this big beautiful bill did is it made America great for the top 1%ers, but for the rest of us, we have to figure out how to struggle through this. And so there are ways to get through it. Some people, so if you have a federal student loan, some people, and I'm not saying to do this, okay? So what some people are doing or what some people have done in the past, and I'm not recommending this at all, but they refinanced their student loans into a personal loan. So now it doesn't become a government loan, and now it's a personal loan. So now you have this personal loan. You can't file bankruptcy on a student loan. Now you have to make sure that it's not classified as an educational loan. I'm not telling anybody to do this. I'm not making a recommendation for anybody to do this. But now when it goes from becoming a student loan to a personal loan, it now qualifies for a bankruptcy. And a Chapter 7 bankruptcy is discharged. Once it's discharged, you reestablish your credit, and you could potentially get into a home in 2 years. Again, I'm not saying to do that. I'm just saying I've seen people do that. Okay. But I would never, ever, ever recommend anybody file bankruptcy to get out of their obligation. But times have gotten back to where that is, critical for some people. Some people may end up having to file for bankruptcy because they are over encumbered in this debt, which the federal government is not looking out for our best interest. If we want to compete on a world stage with other countries, other first world countries, and our education is almost impossible to get, there is a limit on how much people could get financial aid for to become doctors. How are we able to compete on a world stage if we can't even educate our own? You got to think about this. Teachers already don't get paid anything. And then you make it even more impossible for people who are going to school to get the proper education. They can't get the proper education. And so what happens? You're going to have less people going to school. So unless these schools reduce their tuition, which some are, I think that Santa Clara University has reduced its tuition. That's in California. UC Irvine. And I think a school in Kansas has reduced their tuition to be able to, so that these, people can qualify to go to their school or can afford to go to their school. Other schools are going to have to follow suit. And I think I read somewhere that's what the administration was trying to do and trying to push their hand, is making these schools reduce their tuition so that people can qualify, because tuition literally has gotten out of hand. Paying $46,000 a year for school, and that's not even the highest. Harvard or schools like that are 60, 70,000, probably even more per year. And I had to pay, because my children went to a private institution, $46,000 per year. So my son income, and me, right, because the money that I had set aside for him to go to college was eaten up in the divorce settlement. So therefore now, I was able to pay some of his tuition out of pocket, but then the other part of the tuition had to end up being financed. When you have situations like that, what do? Do you tell your children not to go to school? No, I never tell my children not to go to school. Although some will say school's a scam, because you really don't need an education in this day and time to get a good paying job. Trades are an option. Absolutely. And I was just talking to someone the other day. He was saying his 23-year-old son is making $65 an hour as an electrician. So imagine, and this is an apprentice electrician that he told me, and I don't know anything about electrician or even the trades, but to be able to get that kind of money and not have to go to school and pay, $50,000 in tuition is not a bad idea. But how do we get around this? You still have the income repayment program, the income reduction program for these student loans. The cons though for that was that um, if you're not paying the entire amount, your balance actually grows, and a huge chunk of people, specifically Black women, but everybody who was just paying that minimum on the income, is kind of like having a negative amortization loan. They were paying that reduced amount. As they're paying, their balance is increasing. It's not going down. So the good thing about this new loan is that well, you're gonna have to pay more on the principal, which is not, if it hurts you, if it hurts your debt, your personal debt, it's not a good thing. But they also, every payment that you pay, the government will assist you with $50 to bring down your student loan debt. So that's a good thing. I think there's still that option for people who go into give back careers, like your nonprofits, teaching. Those still get forgiven after a certain period of time. So that's a good thing as well. What are some other? Yeah. So the example was someone had a $36 payment and it went up to $440, or somebody had a $47 payment and it went up to $900. That is significant, especially since Black women carry the highest student loan debt burden amongst any demographic. And the thing about it is $38,000, they carry an average of $38,000 for undergrad and $58,000 for grad school. The scenario I told you about in California, they lived in the Bay Area and she had $250,000 in student loan debt. I talked to somebody before, you guys. She had a master's. Her student loan debt was $100-something thousand. Y'all, this was a long time ago though. This had to be 10 plus years ago. Her income was less than $3,000 per month, and she had over $100,000 in student loan debt. That's possible because she just kept going to school, but the whatever she went to school for, it didn't pay. So if you're going to be paying that kind of money and you're not making that much money, all that's doing is keeping you in poverty. And we got to think about that, because these loans now, they're not forgiving. Trump is not as forgiving. He's not trying to help the working class families. And as soon as, folks who are diehard, they're just cultists. Once they understand that this administration is not here to help regular common folks, the sooner we can get through with this nonsense and we can put some parameters in place to be able to help the working class people. But right now, we don't have anything. The system, it's gotten harder for people who need it the most. And that's why having a plan matters. So I had a few situations where I've had some of my clients, there was a lady who was making, she was already deep in debt, and she was doing the repayment. She had been on the Save Act for some years, and she'd been paying like $100 a month, and she thought she was on track. She thought that she was like knocking it down. But the problem is when she found out what she was going to be paying from the Save Act versus the IBR, it went up, it went through the roof, and now she's barely hanging on. And that payment just, it's going to make her default in other areas. I know people who have contemplated filing bankruptcy after school. Like I said, some people will transition their education loan to a personal loan and just file Chapter 7. Now, the bad thing about filing a Chapter 7 is it stays on your credit for 10 years, but it doesn't stop the show. But you also have to make sure that if you're going to put it in any type of loan, it is not labeled an education loan, because there have been people who try to file bankruptcy on student loans. And there's two things that you really can't file bankruptcy on. That's your student loans, and that's a tax bill. Uncle Sam is not giving up on collecting money for taxes. And these federal student loans, they're not going anywhere. So, but if you wanted to take out a loan, so like back in, I had 2004, 2005, I had somebody's calling me. 2004, 2005, I got audited by the IRS. And I was like, shoot, I was in 2004, I wasn't even 30 yet. I got audited and I made a lot of money that year. And I think I had to pay $50,000, something like that, in my taxes. And back then, it was so easy to get a home equity line of credit or whatever. And that's what I did. I got a home equity line of credit to pay off those taxes. And I ended up in 2009 filing for bankruptcy, and I was able to get rid of them. Again, I'm not telling anybody to do that. And you definitely want, I mean, there was so much going on in the market at that time that, it was easier to, well, it's not easier to file bankruptcy, but it was common for a lot of people to file bankruptcy because there was just so much. And I think I don't believe that we're going to see the same housing market, but we're going to see a lot more people because the prices are just astronomical. Inflation is through the roof, and people are just aren't going to be able to afford to live, and folks are going to have to start filing for bankruptcy. But there is hope. Okay, so this is not a doom and gloom conversation. There definitely is hope, and there's things that you can do. Putting more down on the principal to try to knock it down sooner. Building up equity. So one of the things that I was doing with my kids is one of the quickest ways that you can build your savings is do it through investing equity, whether it's stock, whether it's real estate or whatever. So I had properties that I had set aside for my children that was going to pay for their college. And so because the equity increased, I had a good amount that was just set aside for that. So if you can, purchase property and then, you could hold on to it, maybe some investment properties, you could utilize it as income or money revenue to be able to pay your children's student loan, that would be awesome. If your student loan payment increases significantly, well, then we need to work on some other things so that you can balance that debt to income ratio, because the way that lenders will look at your debt to income ratio look at your income is they look at all your debt and they look at them versus your income. If you're still on the income repayment program, and you don't have a payment that's on your credit report, they'll take a percentage of that. And now with the new one that Trump just implemented, they're looking at a higher percentage that'll go against your debt to income ratio. So you may not want to be on any type of forbearance or deferment. You may want to have the regular payment, because that may end up, and this is for qualifying for like home loans and things like that. You may want to have the regular payment, because that may make your debt to income ratio a little bit better instead of being on the income, the income program. And then once you get into the house, then you get on the income-based program under the new act. But I just feel like investing is going to be one of the ways that we can kind of overcome and overturn this thing that they're trying to do. I feel like they really are trying to sabotage us so that we can't build wealth. They said that in the year 2053, Black median wealth was going to be at 0. And so I feel like Black women being the number one demographic, 1 in 5 jobs, especially here in the DC area, are government jobs. 189,000 of those jobs that were taken were Black women jobs. 365,000 white men just got new jobs. 319,000 Black women lost their jobs. So you got to think about all of these factors that are kind of going against what it is that we're trying to do to build. And I say build anyway. Okay. So regardless of all these things that are going on, still try to get in position to get something. Do not allow this to put you on the sidelines, because while you wait, you're losing equity, you're losing leverage, you're losing money that you could be putting towards inside your house where your home. So when you're making your payment every month, that's money that you are putting in. It's like putting money in the bank. You're paying down your principal, the equity's growing, you get a return on your investment. But when you're renting, you're not doing that. And so even though all of these things are put in place, so it seems like they're doing it purposely to try to somehow make it harder for the commoners. And here's the thing about racism. Racism is extremely expensive. It's cost this economy like $30 trillion just by all the things. And there was actually a study by Citigroup that talked about how expensive racism was to the economy by just putting together these policies and the discriminatory practices that have stifled people of color, specifically Black people, from being able to take advantage of opportunities. It hurts everybody. But folks are so sick with racism that they rather not have. They rather cut off their nose to spite their faces so that we can't have anything. The reason why we don't have free universal health care is because white people didn't want Black people to get free health care. It's the only reason. So they're like, we don't want them to get health care. And if they got to get health care with us, then we just rather would pay for it. That's how sick they are. The biggest lie, the biggest scam that's ever been told by the powers that be is that is the idea of racism. Because what's happening is they are letting white people know that you have a privilege and we can take everything from you, but at least you ain't Black. And poor white people, instead of them, joining the forces with other people in their socioeconomic status and other socioeconomic class, they're siding with the powers that be. Why do you think they love Donald Trump so much? Donald Trump has nothing in common with these people. This motherfucker don't know what groceries are. Okay. And so you think that you have something. Donald Trump is just like us. Donald Trump is nothing like you. And he doesn't give a damn about you. And he constantly does things with every policy shift. He does something that's going to destroy you in some way. But you are so, you have this white privilege. The privilege of being white doesn't mean that you don't struggle, but you don't have to think about your race in your struggles, right? And so the thing that they've successfully done is make you think that we're your enemy, Black folks, immigrants, when it's really them your enemy. So it just keeps them in power. That's why you keep voting that way. And what you don't realize is that the things that you're voting for is actually affecting you. That's why your EBT is cut. That's why your farms are closing. That's why you got tariffs and these businesses are closing, because you are voting against your own best interest, because you want to be connected with your whiteness instead of your rightness. And that's the things that are going to benefit you the most. So it's unfortunate, but we have to figure out a way to navigate through these spaces with information and continue to build anyway. Because when people say that they're not thinking about us, ladies and gentlemen, they are. But we have to build in spite of. We got to. So one of the things Tommy says, pay the next month's principal and or biweekly. Are you talking about on the mortgage, or are you talking about on the student loans? But that's one of the ways that you can increase your equity very quickly, is by making extra payments or paying your mortgage payment biweekly, because you can reduce the interest, because the interest is accrued over 30 days. And if you make your payments biweekly as opposed to monthly, you're cutting down on the interest, and you're growing your equity that way as well. So thank you for that. Somebody say you got to pay your bills. Unfortunately, with inflation, with everything going on, it's become a hardship for everybody, not just a certain demographic. And it's funny that people who say you got to pay your bills, they be the main ones who ain't paying their bills. And it's so, it's great when they like to cast a stone, but they be defaulting on everything else anyway. Again, they thinking it's everybody else's problem when it's hurting people in their own backyard. And so I just wanted to send a message to you about, a lot of people have been affected by, what's happening with the student loans, about what's happening with inflation, all of these things. One thing that you can't go wrong on is being an investor in homes, in stock, in land. Those things you cannot go wrong in. They're not making any more land. Equity happens. Markets shift. It is cyclical. So if it goes down, it's going to go up. I'll tell you what never has gone down in the history of this country, though: rent. And so as long as you continue to rent, you're never going to get to a place where you're actually building. And I've heard like some influencers say that, home ownership is a scam, or it's the worst thing ever. I could sell my house today and I can go pay cash for something else somewhere else, because I have equity, because the money that I put into my home, as coupled with the growth of the home's value, has given me the leverage to I can go to another country if I want to and just live off the land because of equity. So home ownership is never a scam. It's how you manage your home. And then if you get to a place where you have multiple properties, you win it. So if you ever fall into a place where things get rough, you might have some property that you can sell and get yourself out of a mess. So one of the things that I'm doing for my son right now, um, is he just graduated from college. I purchased a property for him when he turned 18. I'm selling that property right now. Anybody want to buy it? 999 Porter Avenue in Stockton, California. But I'm selling it. And then he actually just got a job offer today. Yay, my son got a job offer. So where he's going to go, I'm going to actually buy him a multi-unit so that he can live in one unit. He can rent out the other unit and he can use it as leverage as he's growing his portfolio. So his first property is going to be a multi-unit where he lives in one, he's getting the rent, and that's going to be, the money towards, that's for him. So I'm out fresh out of college, just like I did with my daughter. When my daughter graduated, I bought her two properties. I bought her one while she was a COVID. So she turned 21. Yeah, I bought her one in 2020, and then I turned around and bought her one in 2022. And so, they're coming out of college with properties, but these, I'm setting them up so that they will be investors and not renters. You could do the same thing. There's different types of loans that you can get so that you can help assist your college student while they're in college. Great. The great thing, I wasn't even mad at him. My son was like, I'm going to go and live with a buddy of mine because he's going back that direction. He's going back to Hampton to work. And he said, I'm going to go live with a buddy of mine. His mom bought him a place. And I said, okay, that's what's up. I said, how much? He's like, yeah, he's going to make me sign a 6-month lease. I said, that's what's up. I would do the same thing. And he's going to pay him, a certain amount of rent. And I was like, I did the same thing when I bought my daughter her property out in Hampton. She had a roommate, and that roommate was basically paying her mortgage. So, utilize this leverage for your children. If you can, purchase some property for your children while they're in college. If you get a student loan refund check, that could be the down payment for a house, especially in these areas, especially when they have these HBCUs. They're typically in areas that have lower property values. Well, you get a property that's $100,000, you put 3.5% down for your child. That's $3,500. Say you got a maximum of maybe $6,000 or $7,000 that you're putting down on a property for your child. You have your child have some roommates like my son's friend. They're paying your mortgage. Your mortgage ain't gonna be no more than $700-800 for a $100,000 property, and then you could rent it out. You can put two people in a room. You can put one person in a room, and they're paying your mortgage. So there's ways around this. I don't want you to get stuck on the idea of the student loan being the thing that's just going to stop you from doing anything. You can still get around it. Okay. And I just wanted to encourage you. And actually, you're right. Sometimes mortgage companies won't allow you to do biweekly payments. But I would do it anyway. I would just, instead of like even asking them, because some won't, but they will accept payments. They'll accept partial payments. So if you pay a payment on the 1st, and you pay a payment before the 15th and they accept it, then they will take a partial payment, and they won't. If you call them and say, can I set it up with a biweekly payment? They'll say no. But if you send them a biweekly payment and they accept it, then they do. Okay. So, but you're right. But that is a way that you can cut down on interest, build your equity, and grow. So I just wanted to give you these little nuggets on student loans, what you can do with your money. There's still ways that you can grow your money out there, y'all. I want you to become homeowners. I want you to become investors. Homeownership is the first step to your investment property. I am creating a community called First Keys. And this is for people who are wanting to get into their first keys, who want to get the first keys. And this is whether you're going to help your children purchase property, whether you want to help your children become investors. I've done that. This is whether you want to purchase your first home for yourself. This is whether you want to become an investor ultimately and use leverage from the first properties and create your wealth plan. This is a community where I'm going to be having monthly sessions, Q&As. So this is a private community where no matter where you are in the country, you will be able to join this community. And the great thing about it is you'll have other people who are going to be getting into homes, and I'm going to be coaching them, me and my team. We're going to be coaching them through the process. So you don't have to live in the places that we're licensed, because I'm licensed in DC, Maryland, Virginia, and California. But if you're in Texas, we have partners in Texas that will connect you with. We have lending companies in Texas that will connect you with. The biggest thing that we're going to be doing is getting you prepared. We're going to be getting you down payment assistance if you don't have it. We're going to be showing you all the strategies of how to get into a home. If your credit is challenged, we're going to help you get your credit together. We're going to work with you, whether it takes 3 months or 36 months. The goal is to help you to be able to get your first set of keys. Okay. So I exist to help Black people build wealth. It's what I do. That's what I live. That's everything for me. And so this is part of, me helping you to be able to build wealth. If you are interested, do I have the banner up here? If you're interested, I don't think I do. Go to firstkeys.club, and there's actually a free firstkeys.club. There's actually a free assessment on the website. Let me delete something. There's actually a free assessment, and it's a mortgage assessment. It's free. You go in there and you can see where you are in your wealth building journey. Free assessment. It'll give you a score and tell you where you are and how long it's going to take you to pretty much get into a home. So you go from, I don't know what I want to do, I don't know if I want to purchase, and you go and you actually have a roadmap. So you get an assessment, which will give you a score immediately. So if you go to firstkeys.club, take that free assessment, see where you are. The first 10 people that join are going to get in for half the price. So it's only $49 per month. You get access to our homeownership training, all of our credit training, and you get live coaching with me and my team. And you have a private community where we are going to help you get to the place where you're going to get your first keys. So if you are interested, go to firstkeys.club. You will you'll take the assessment. And if you sign up for the $49 per month, you'll immediately start getting homework and then prepare you for our first meeting, which I believe is next week sometime. I think it's next Thursday. So go to firstkeys.club so that you can be a part of this movement and this community so that we can help you get into a home, because ultimately that's my goal. So whether it's, again, credit, whether it's business ownership, real estate, my goal is to help you to be able to build the wealth, if you have an idea, whatever that looks like, it's to build a wealth, but not only build it, to pass it. So go to firstkeys.club, and I'm happy to have you become a part of our community, because that's what I do. I'm gonna go to the questions really quick, because there's some questions, or there may be some comments over here. Is the max DTI 45 to 50%? What's up, Errol? As far as conventional loans is 45 to 50%. VA loans are a little bit higher. You can go up to like 55, 60. VA loans are kind of subjective. FHA loans, they go up to 55% of your income. So what DTI, what your debt to income ratio is you got to look at your gross monthly income. So if you make $5,000 per month, all of your bills together, including your housing, can't be more than, say, 50% of that. So your housing plus the things that report on your credit, which is your credit cards, your car payment, everything together has to be no more than $2,500. So that's the max that you can pay out every month. Then that's how a lender will look at your situation. For FHA, it's a little bit more liberal. They'll go higher than your the 50%, 45 on the mortgage only, but 55% total of your gross monthly income. So that'll kind of tell you what your affordability is if you are looking at purchasing a home. Somebody said, why are they taking our holidays? You mean like Juneteenth? Yeah, I mean, listen, we had Juneteenth long before they made it a federal holiday. We're going to continue having Juneteenth. We don't care. This administration is hell bent. They're obsessed. They're obsessed with you. So you gotta wonder why, because they know your power. So everything that they've been trying to throw in your way to knock you off your square, we're gonna make sure that we counter that, and we're gonna make sure that we provide you with resources so that you don't fall into the trap. Okay. See, Tommy, 46,000. So I met Tommy freshman, the day that our son's freshman year. We both were moving in our sons. Were they roommates, or they weren't roommates? Were they roommates, Tommy? But 46,000 a year, and for me, a good portion of that was paid out of pocket. Doctors is disadvantaged. Thank you, I appreciate it. Listen, I be trying to keep it real. It's a lot going on out there, and so it ain't no use to me trying to front. What's up, Deborah? Will win. Let me see. Tanya, I want you to be a part of First Keys. So make sure you go to firstkeys.club and take the assessment, but make sure you join the community, because I want to be able to, my goal is to at least, I'll say, and this is just a number I'm pulling out, I want at least, let's say 250 homeowners in the next 12 months that I want to be able to help ever in the country. A minimum of 250 people become homeowners. So I really want to help you. My team really wants to help you. We've been talking about ways that we can expand beyond our local territories. And that's the reason why we did it, is because we just want to be able to help as many people as possible. We're going to beat this wealth gap. We're going to overcome all these obstacles, but we have to do it together. You know, there's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And so we need each other. We need each other to survive. And so, you know, if you try to do things by yourself in silos, it's just much harder. You can get there, and, you know, but it may take you a little bit longer to get there. Why not get into community with people who can help you? And so people who are personally invested in helping you. So make sure you do that. Your credit is challenged. All right. He said nothing but a word. For me, listen, I had a 379 credit score in 2009, right before I filed for bankruptcy. So I've been there, done that, wrote some books about it. Get my bookkeeping score. And this has helped people. If you look at, go to Amazon, look at the reviews for this book, and know that people are getting their scores up significantly just by reading the book. Or you could take my online training, because I know people learn differently. Yep, Brenda, if you're taking the assessment, definitely have your husband take the assessment as well. And so, or you could probably combine the information where you take it together. But definitely, we definitely want to make sure that you guys are homeowners as soon as possible. So if you thought that there was no hope before, no, it's going to be some hope. So I want to make sure that you guys are in community so that we can aid you no matter where you are in the country. I knew that was coming, to help you get into the home. Okay. We don't get anything. You know, if you're not in our area, we're not selling you the home, but the goal is to just make sure that everybody gets connected and everybody is able to get something. Everybody can get into a home. That is our goal. That's our mission. That's our purpose. Okay. So take the assessment, join the community, and we will see you there. I think, like I said, our first, you'll get an email of when our first meeting is, and you'll immediately come inside of our Facebook group and start interacting with our team. All right. But don't let none of this stuff hold you back. Stay focused, stay encouraged, keep grinding. Oh, let me go to Instagram to see if there's any comments on Instagram, because I know you guys don't be on the regular thing. So let me go on Instagram. Interest is compounded. Yes, Ivan said interest is compounded. Mortgage interest is definitely compounded. Ivan said his remedy upon graduation was to join the Army as officer, and the student loans were absorbed by the government in exchange for 6 years. I see some people filling out the first key. Sabotage us for real. Yep, that's true. How do you pay your mortgage bi-weekly? I'm a new homeowner. Like I said, so some mortgage companies, they have programs where you could ask them if you can get on the bi-weekly plan. I did. And or you can pay extra to principal. So like I said, you could pay on the first, pay a partial payment. So take that mortgage payment, pay half on the first, pay half before the 15th or before the 16th. If it's after the 16th, of course, there's going to be a late payment on your mortgage payment. You don't want to accrue any additional late payments. But if they're willing to take a partial payment on the 1st and the 15th, then you do it that way. Some of them have programs where they'll do a biweekly payment, which will drive down your interest on your mortgage. Also, paying an additional $100, $200 on your principal, it could sometimes knock down 10 years on your mortgage, depending on the amount of your mortgage, because you're paying compounded interest, like he said, and also you're only paying interest for the first 20 years. So you're not really putting a whole lot on the principal. You're putting a small portion, but if you pay directly to the principal, that's going to actually help you significantly with knocking down your principal and increasing your equity a lot quicker. She said, cut the mortgage in half. So you need to have savings first. No, not necessarily. You're just cutting the mortgage in half. So whatever your mortgage payment is, so say your mortgage is $2,000, you pay $1,000 on the 1st and on the 15th, before the 16th though, because you do not want to get that late payment. Okay. How can I get in contact with some of your programs? I'm getting ready to retire and looking to create some investments. Go to my website, constancecarter.com. And all of my programs, let me see if I have a banner on here. All of my programs are on my website. So there is a tree that you can get access to everything that I do. And like I said, I exist to help Black people build wealth. So I have everything that I do, I just try to teach it to others. So if you don't know me, I'm a real estate broker. I built the largest Black-owned real estate firm in California. I'm trying to find my thing. Just go to constancecarter.com. I bought commercial property. I bought residential property. I've had Airbnbs, tenants, written books that were bestsellers. I did a TEDx, so I'm a speaker. I'm an investor, flip properties, all of those things. So everything that I've done, I teach. And so you can find some type of resources, lots of free resources on my page. If you go to constancecarter.com go to constancecarter.com, free downloads, tons of free downloads on there where you could just download some resources. So I just try to give you as much information as possible. Like I said, everything I do, everything I've been successful at, I teach. The things that I have not been successful at, I learn from them and I teach. The bankruptcy. You don't want to have to file bankruptcy unless you have to file bankruptcy. My credit was bad. I have books on that. I show you, I've had more month than money. I show you how to make sure that you're cutting the fat and that you're taking your money and that you're investing it. I've used different strategies and tools that have helped me to increase my investment. So I teach all that stuff. So everything I've learned, I teach, whether it's learn the hard way or learn the easy way. That's what I do. So let me go back to, so that's what Ricky Nikki 209 said on here on Instagram. What is it about homes? What is this about homes? Okay. Good show, cousin. Who's my cousin? Dragonfly? Which cousin is that? Dragonfly. DM me Dragonfly because I don't know which cousin that is. I can't see. All right. So that's it on Instagram. I'm about to get up off of here. And then on Facebook, you guys, if you ever want your comments to show up on the screen, go to my YouTube page. Everywhere I am Constance Carter. So whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, I go live on all those different platforms. And so this gets pushed out to like 9 different platforms. And so anywhere you want to see if you want to be live, just come in here and I'm happy to have a conversation with you. But I just wanted to share that information with you because I think that, again, these are things that we have to overcome. We was built for this. We was made for this. We've been overcoming since the inception of this country. This is just another thing. And we know why their obsession, because they know that you're powerful, because despite of everything that they've done, you've still been able to overcome. And it's just another thing that we got to overcome, but we got to make sure that we do it. And so get the help that you need, whether it's me or anybody else. What I don't want you stuck and sitting on the sidelines doing nothing. Because doing nothing is absolutely nothing. There's no growth in nothing. Okay, there's no wealth in nothing. There's nothing in nothing. And even if you have challenged credit, even if you have, you don't have the money for down payment, got down payment assistance, we will help you navigate through all of that stuff. If you have a job, you can't own a home. Even if you might be on a permanent disability, depending on what your income is. You could still purchase a home. So don't count yourself out. Okay. Do not count yourself out. There are opportunities and you just got to know what they are. So if you don't know what they are, we'll help you identify them and then we'll get you in a home. Real estate is the #1 wealth builder. Okay. 44% of Black people own real estate compared to 70% of white people. Now they've had a 400-year head start. They got free land in the Homestead Act. They got 76 million acres of land. We didn't even get our 40 acres in the mill, and yet 44% of us are homeowners. So that tells you something. I'm looking at it as a glass is half full. A lot of people are like, only 40%. That's pretty good, being that we've only been in the game the last 50, 60 years. So it's a good thing. And guess what? In 2020, Google that shit. We outpaced every other demographic when it came to wealth and home ownership. So when all things are put out there and when everybody knows the rules, we dominate. That's like we do in sports. So the only way that they can win is if by cheating. We've been winning with having disadvantages. So we're going to keep winning. So whatever they do, whatever the administration tries to do to knock you off your square, we got solutions. Okay. And I just want you to be encouraged because there's still going to be opportunities for you. All right. So, oh, yay. Brenda just signed up for First Keys. Who else is signing up for First Keys? Donna Dawn said, I have a home and good credit score. I need help with leveraging what I currently have. All right. Holla at me. Because that's important. Leverage is important because you don't want to use your own money. You want to use OPM. You want to use what you have so that you can get more. So I think that's it. If there's no more questions, that's why I come live, because this is a dialogue and not a monologue. And I want to be able to answer your questions live. And that's why I'm here. So before I get off of here, I'm going to go over to Instagram, make sure I'm getting ready to retire. Okay. Oh, student loan. Okay. Beverly said, I'm getting ready. Oh, okay. We're DNA Jed match. Okay. What's up, Dragonfly? What's cracking? DM me, Dragonfly. You said we matched on DNA. Somebody else said we matched on DNA too, but it was a different Constance Carter because they showed me a picture. But that's what's up. I'm getting ready to retire and owe student loans from my daughter. Help. Okay. Let's sit down. Let's do a strategy session. So once you fill out the assessment, then we can do a one-on-one strategy session. I do have a free strategy session. So if you want to do that, fill out the assessment, and then I think it'll send you a link to a 15-minute free strategy session. So all I do for free is 15 minutes. All right, and we'll figure something out for you. All right, y'all. Love y'all. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe I won't. But I wanted to put this out there because I believe that there's hope. And if you've ever wanted to purchase a home and you've been sitting on the sidelines, let's get you in action. Stop waiting. All right. So go to firstkeys.club to be part of our club so that we can specifically, you'll be assigned one of our agents that's going to be able to walk with you the entire project, whether they help you get into that home or not. Even if you live in Arizona and they're in California, they're still going to walk you through. So you're going to specifically have a mentor that's going to be coaching you through the entire process for your unique situation. Okay. That's what's beautiful about this whole entire thing. All right. So I look forward to it. We'll see ya.